Got a record coming up on the countdown that is decorated right and left with catchy dance hooks. A dance floor classic from the summer of 1987. And fortunately, the FM stations, they were on this one. Jellybean with Who Found Who at number 16. Excuse me. Up 3 from number 19. On this fancy playlist of August 29th. 1987. How you doing? Dean Kirk here. Going down the time tunnel. 35 years. Woo! And this is 2022 right now. 1987, 35 years. Reeling in the years. Reeling in this record. Who Found Who by Jellybean. His real name, John Benitez. John Benitez, Jellybean, he had only 2 top 40 hits. He had a number of charted hits. But under his name, he had Sidewalk Talk. Is there anybody out there who remembers Sidewalk Talk? It's a pretty obscure record now. As a matter of fact, it wasn't even played that much down here in the South, unfortunately. Although I do believe the song made it into the top 20. A song that was written by Madonna. He did that. That was in the winter of, winter of 85, 86, fall of 85. And then we got Who Found Who. But this is the tip of the iceberg. This is the tip of the iceberg because he has remixed so many records. As a matter of fact, he didn't necessarily discover Madonna, but he helped launch her career, helped put her into orbit back in 1983 and 84, back when he was a DJ at the Funhouse in New York City, and Madonna started hanging out there. Back in the early 80s, she went to New York, I think, from Michigan. Originally from Michigan. I read a biography of Madonna years ago, which was really good. And she moved to New York in the late 70s and then started really getting ginned up in the early 80s. But Jellybean really helped her out early in her career. As a matter of fact, they were going out together. Unfortunately, Jellybean's achievements, at least initially, somewhat overshadowed by an affair or a relationship that he had with Madonna, which from what I've read was both professional and romantic. Oh my goodness! Well, that was a mouthful right there. There's so much to say, and this is a mother lode of information like you wouldn't believe. I'm gonna have to do this video into 2 parts. That's all there is to it. Jellybean is one of the pioneers of remixing records. Taking a pop record and remixing it into a dance record, putting it on the charts, and making it really big. And boy, the record companies really started to take notice. But let's go back to the beginning. His real name, John Benitez, in case I didn't mention it already. He grew up in the Bronx, shooting hoops, playing stickball, and during the afternoons, many an afternoon, he would listen to the radio, spend hours listening to the radio. That was one of the reasons why he was so successful, was because he would listen, he was into music. He lived and he breathed music. He listened to music. His mother got him a whole bunch of 45s. He had a battery-powered turntable. He'd listen to records on his battery-powered turntable. His early forays to the DJing, he would go to parties or go to these get-togethers with his friends or peers, and he'd bring his record player with him, and he'd change out the 45s real quick. Later on, he started hanging out at the nightclubs. There's one DJ I read that he was really enamored with, that was just doing a great job mixing records. Well, Jellybean was intrigued, definitely intrigued. As a matter of fact, he had his record player. He borrowed his sister's record player. He had 2 record players, started practicing DJing, and started doing parties. He got so much into music that he skipped classes. He was throwing these basement parties, and there was a neighbor who offered him $25. Offered him $25 to DJ her daughter's sweet, I can't even talk, her daughter's sweet 16 birthday party. And he got kicked out of school. But he was not fazed. 1976, he got a weekend job. He DJ'd at a club called Charlie's. He played between these sets by salsa bands, but he persuaded the manager to let him DJ between 12 and 6 o'clock, do a non-alcoholic party for young people, which was very successful. And eventually, he ventured out and started DJing in Manhattan. And that's the thing. He was DJing. He was mixing records. And he did get a equivalent to a high school diploma. He went to community college. He took voice and diction classes, majored in psychology, but continued to DJ. And by the spring of 1981, he got a big break. He got a job DJing at the Funhouse in New York City, and he developed a reputation. I can't really explain it all to you. Timing, remixing records, mixing beats together, playing snippets of certain records and stretching them out. Developed a big reputation doing that. And he would push certain records. He pushed Planet Rock. He pushed Let the Music Play, which were immense hits for Shannon. The record companies took notice, and they hired him as a remixer to take these pop songs and create new dance versions of these pop records. Now, Warner Brothers, they started sending him people. Jellybean at the Funhouse. He was loading up those dance floors. He's extremely talented at what he was doing. And the record company, Warner Brothers, they sent a new artist to visit Jellybean. An ambitious, attractive, and a very bright woman who lived in New York City for about 4 or 5 years, originally from Michigan. Her name, Madonna. Now, Jellybean was familiar with Madonna. She came to visit him in the DJ booth. The executives at Warner Brothers set it all up. He had played a song by Madonna called Everybody, and it was drawing some great dance floors. Madonna wanted him to remix a couple of records. He wanted him to remix Physical Attraction, and her record company wanted him to remix Burn It Up. Remember Burn It Up for Your Love? Boy, that was one of her best records, Burn It Up by Madonna. See, the thing about Madonna, although I know not the greatest singer. She's not Whitney. She's not Mariah. But she makes it up with the passion that she infuses into her records. Sometimes the coyness that she infused in her records. But anyway, the record companies wanted Warner Brothers wanted Jellybean to remix Like a Virgin and Burn It Up for Your Love. And Madonna, well, here's the deal. The record company, Warner Brothers, they dropped a song from Madonna's upcoming album. They just pulled it off the album, and they needed a song to replace it. So they went to Jellybean. Now, Jellybean was so famous, he had become so famous by 1983, 84 that all kinds of artists, songwriters were sending their demos to Jellybean. Jellybean had, gosh dog it, he had loads of demos. Well, one night while DJing, it's at the Funhouse because when Madonna met Jellybean, she started hanging out at the Funhouse, dancing and, having her records played at the Funhouse. And we're talking the early 80s, 1980, well, I guess from 1982, 83, before she got really big. Madonna, well, here's what happened. Jellybean pulled out a demo of a song called Holiday. He played the demo to Madonna. Madonna was, oh, this is great. Let's do this. I really like this. And Warner Brothers was enthused. But Jellybean was like, look, if you want this, I got to produce it. And Warner Brothers said, okay, you got 5 days to produce Holiday. Madonna and Jellybean went to the recording studio and they nailed the song in 4 days. Got it down in 4 days. And as the cliche goes, the rest is history. Madonna becomes a superstar. But now, Holiday was not a top 10. It went to number 17, number 16, number 17 on Billboard's Hot 100, though, in the fall of 1983. That was not just a dance hit. She crossed over on the pop charts. And then within a matter of months, she would hit it real big with Borderline and Lucky Star and Like a Virgin in 1984. I'm going to end this video and go into part 2 later on. But before I come to an end, I want to mention something else about Jellybean. He was so famous by the late 80s. He was well-heeled, jet skiing across the sea of fame and fortune, remixing records, hobnobbing with celebrities, a DJ engagement at the famed Palladium in New York City, and had airplane tickets, flight reservations to go to LA to attend the wedding of Demi Moore and Bruce Willis. A lot of celebrities hung out with this guy because they were just comfortable with him. He was very much not really, kind of unassuming, laid back. I'm trying to think of another word, but I can't right now. But very busy person. A day in the life of Jellybean in the 80s, listening to a song by an artist and checking out a video of another artist, get a phone call from somebody, a producer from fame, getting another phone call from somebody who's associated with the show Miami Vice. Oh boy, my goodness, this is just one hell of a resume. Part 2 coming up. Welcome to part 2 of Jellybean. Talk about Jellybean on my fantasy playlist of August 29th, 1987 at number 16, up 3 from number 19. I got to tell you, as far when you combine this video with the part 1 and that little snippet I did after it, this is going to be the longest dang video I've ever made talking about somebody. I never would imagine it would be about Jellybean, but I came across a really good source, and it was so loaded up with trivia. I just have to kind of share at least some of the highlights with you. Okay, Jellybean, we're at the end of 1984. Madonna's released her debut album. He remixed Like a Virgin. Then Jellybean, he got a production deal, a major production deal with EMI Records, and he put out an album called Witowski in 1984. I think it was 1984, Witowski, featuring Sidewalk Talk. Sidewalk Talk was originally released in the fall of 1984. Service to the dance radio stations, hit the dance charts. Then it was re-released, I think, or it crossed over on the pop charts by the tail end of 1985. Catherine Buchanan doing the rap on there, and Madonna really seasoned the vocal appeal of the record with her part. She sang the background and did some of the choruses in the record. Song, boy, just a fantastic dance beat. That song had one infectious dance beat. It should have been played a lot more. It should have been played a lot more down here. Woo, but those Birmingham stations in 1985, don't get me started on that. Just don't get me started on that. All right, 1985. Speaking of 1985, May 14th, 1985, a place, I guess an iconic place called the Palladium, it's no longer there, was torn down or replaced years ago in the late 90s. But the Palladium, it's Palladium, in case I'm mispronouncing it. It was renovated. It was a concert hall and a theater, and it became a nightclub. And one of the people who renovated it, one of the co-owners of the Palladium, his name was Steve Rebell, one of the co-owners of the famed Studio 54 in New York City. And Steve Rebell, after the Palladium reopened as a nightclub, he wanted Jellybean in the DJ box, in the main room, in the main dancing room, well, in the main room, period. And he hired Jellybean, but here's what happened. That very same week, or the very same time, spring 1985, Crazy for You by Madonna went to number 1. Madonna delivering one of her most heart-rending performances on that record. I just can't get people just kind of going down on Madonna's singing ability. I guess I could see that. But she delivered some of the most powerful vocals ever. I mean, she just had that emotion, a heart of sincerity. But anyway, the song went to number 1. It was produced by Jellybean, Crazy for You, produced by Jellybean. Steve Rebell, the guy who hired Jellybean at the Palladium, started having second thoughts. He began to think, Jellybean, you're really more of a commercial record producer than a cutting-edge DJ spinning records. And that's what I'm looking for here. A DJ who's cutting edge, just busting these records wide open. And you're kind of commercial, producing all these records. And I'm going to have to let you go. I'm going to have to replace you, man. But I tell you what, since you draw all these celebrities, you're more than welcome to hang out in our VIP room. And I tell you what, I mentioned the celebrity aspect of Jellybean in the last one. I might have overdone it, so I'm going to overdo it a little bit again. Some of his celebrity forays. Jellybean attended Boy George's birthday party. And one of the people who threw that birthday party was a gossip columnist. Jellybean was seen with Cher at a place called The Area, which I take was a nightclub. And he was in Whitney, Houston. He was found in Whitney, Houston's private entourage at the Palladium. Talk about Jellybean, and there was his affair with Madonna. Although, fortunately, he pulled out of Madonna's shadow, and he achieved so much. He achieved a lot. I looked at his list of credits on Wikipedia. It's just mind-numbing. All the songs that he remixed. Artists that he remixed or recorded, well, basically remixed: Whitney Houston, David Bowie, Denise Williams, Pointer Sisters, Paul McCartney. Just to get you started on that. Oh, he produced a musical score, produced a musical theme for Spaceballs, that movie Spaceballs, that Mel Brooks film. I remember watching that film at the Tide Theater on the Strip here near the University of Alabama back in 1987. I think I laughed my way throughout nearly the whole film. But I didn't know that. I just found that out a few minutes ago. Now, the album, let's get to the album. I know you're saying, Dean, you just gotten off all over the place. You're talking about I don't care about his celebrity status. Just get to the music, man. Get to the album. Get to the music, how the song was created. Unfortunately, I can't tell you how the song was created. I don't have a clue. I really don't. I'd like to know. Maybe if Jellybean's watching this video, he can send me the info how this song was created, including the instruments that he used on it. Did he use a Fairlight? Did he use the Lynn drum machine? And well, anyway, the album is called Just Visiting This Planet. That's the album. And Who Found Who? I might be pronouncing her first name, Fiorella. Ooh, that's another story, and I can't go there. I just cannot go there. Elisa Fiorello, now she's another fantastic vocalist too. Very nice, sturdy voice, and she sang on this record, Who Found Who, and just, I think the quality of her voice, the pitch of her voice helped make this record one of the reasons why the record was such a pleasing song to listen to, Who Found Who. Now, Lisa Fiorello, she did a lot of background singing. She worked with Prince, and she did some background singing for Savage Garden in the 90s. And 1990, she recorded the album I Am at Paisley Park, and Prince did some writing on the album and did some producing on the album. But I remember Elisa Fiorella, she had that song back in 1991, On the Way Up, which, if I remember correctly, just barely made top 40. Remember watching the video on, it might have been BET or MTV. But that was a nice song, On the Way Up. Boy, I'd just like to share those memories with you, too, along with the trivia. Well, that is it. Oh, my God. 7 minutes on this video and 9 minutes on the last video. Let's end this thing. At number 16, Jellybean, Who Found Who, on this fantasy playlist, August 29th, 1987.